Where are you, Debbie? Look, it's.
Sorry, I was talking now. I'm starting out right today. This is the regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Golden Rain Foundation of Laguna Woods, a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation, Tuesday, January 3rd, 9:30, Laguna Woods virtual meeting will now come to order. So we have a quorum. Thank you. And the next item is the Pledge of Allegiance with Director Skillman.
On this wonderful, rainy new year, which we so need, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So the next item of business is, I'm going to acknowledge the media. And the next item of business is the approval of the agenda. Are there any, yes?
Approving the agenda.
Are there any objections?
I have a comment about the agenda for changing one of the items on the
Okay.
agenda.
Okay,
I would like for item 14E2 to be moved to in front of the 12B, so we have a presentation for the EV charging before we entertain the motion for the canceling application for the EV charger.
thank you. Are there any objections?
Could you repeat the change?
The item 14E-2 and moved and combined with the item 12B. So we make a presentation before the motion.
Are there any objections? There are no objections. The corrected agenda is approved. So the next item is the approval of the minutes of December 1st, 2022, GRF Board Special Open Meeting. Are there any corrections? Are there any objections? There are no objections, then the minutes of December 1st, 2022 GRF Board Special Open Meeting is approved. So the next item would be the minutes of December 6th, 2022 GRF Board Regular Open Meeting. Are there any objections? Are there any changes? Sorry, got to get my order here. If there are no changes, are there any objections? So if there is no objections, the minutes of December 6, 2022 is approved without objection. So the next item is the approval of the minutes of December 15, 2022 GRF Board Agenda Prep Meeting. Are there any changes? Are there any objections? So if there are no objections, the December 15, 2022 GRF Board Agenda Prep Meeting is approved without objection. So the next item is the report of the chair. And the only thing that I was going to talk about was basically what we have to look forward to this next year. Okay, we have some special projects that we're working on. And I do have to say, everybody have a happy new year. These important projects, I think most of you know we're working on an ERP system, and we expect the first phase, it's estimated that it would be installed approximately August, September timeframe. So then we have broadband. So we have a transition from cable to streaming. So no changes are expected this year, but the committee will be doing a lot of planning to keep up with the industry as it impacts the village. So the next item would be Building E. That's a big one. We really have to work on the alternatives, and we are doing that, as we speak. So the next is Clubhouse 1 interior design. We're trying to set the design, basically would be a standard for all the clubhouses going forward. We have anti-harassment board, which we are going to complete the approvals and set up something that we have never done before, and that is a anti-harassment board, which will consist of GRF and United at this point in time. We also have a pickleball proposal, which everybody has had a lot to say, but this is something that the pickleboard club has proposed to GRF. And the only way that that will go forward is if it meets all the criteria to do any of the building with GRF. And basically what they want is to use our land to do this, but it would be at no cost to GRF. So I want everybody to say that, but it won't go through unless it meets the criteria for GRF. And basically what GRF is going to be making every effort to do is more transparency to the community. So thank you. And the next would be the CEO report.
Thank you.
Siobhan Foster.
Honorable President, members of the board, with the end of the year, I want to highlight solid waste handling services this morning and share information received from the city about its intent to improve the performance of CR&R, the city's contracted service provider. In 2022, our General Services Department worked closely with the city to transition solid waste and recycling programs from waste management to CR&R. This included the implementation of the new organics recycling program in response to Senate Bill 1383, implemented new, more efficient bulky item collection program, and coordinating the replacement of tall bins with lower profile bins. The one-year anniversary of CR&R providing service in the village was January 1st, 2023. Since the service contract is between the city and CR&R, BMS has expressed concern to the city regarding CR&R performance in the village and asked what steps the city is taking to compel CR&R to improve its performance. In terms of communications, the city staff communicates with CR&R on a daily basis, frequently on matters related to solid waste handling services here in the village. There are also standing meetings with CR&R. The weekly meeting involves CR&R, the city, and VMS, including the city contract administrator, CR&R enterprise sustainability director, and our VMS director of general services. The city also has a bi-weekly meeting with CR&R involving the city manager, the city contract administrator, the CR&R president, regional vice president, and enterprise sustainability director. In 2022, we measured missed collections. There are more than 2,800 containers that need to be collected throughout the village. There are 55 containers at GRF facilities, more than 2,100 in Third Mutual, and about 600 containers in United Mutual. Statistics on missed pickups for the year In Q1, there was an average of 71 missed containers per month, or about 2.5% of the total container count. In the second quarter, the average dropped to 14 containers missed per month, or less than 0.5% of all containers in the village. In Q3, we saw an increase of missed containers. The average went up to 52 containers on average per month, or about 2% of total containers throughout the village. In Q4 through mid-December, there were 27 containers on average missed per month, or about 1% of the total containers in the village. CR&R identifies driver consistency as the primary factor contributing to missed collections. Notably, when relief drivers come in to provide services for the regular drivers, they're not as familiar with the village layout. The city is working with CR&R to identify solutions to compensate for the periodic need for relief drivers. This month, January, the city will begin conducting follow-behind field reviews of CR&R routes as part of these efforts. The city is also able to assess liquidated damages for containers not collected from the same enclosure or curbside location on 2 consecutive scheduled collection days. $1,200 in liquidated damages have been assessed for consecutive missed collections within the village in August, September, and October 2022. The city is finalizing the process to reimburse the housing mutuals for those consecutive missed collections for liquidated damages collected. So money will be coming back to the mutuals. GRF does not have anything that falls into this category. In terms of hold time, the contract requires callers placed on hold to be provided with an option to receive a return call within 90 minutes. Average hold time for callers who choose to remain online have ranged from a low of 1 minute in April to a high of 24 minutes in September. For all but 2 of the first 11 months of the contract term, the average hold time was less than 9 minutes. For a majority of the first 11 months of the contract term, average hold time was less than 4.5 minutes. The city is also tracking specific incidents and the follow-up that was required that are performance issues. For example, on October 27th, CR&R experienced a technical issue causing one of their main servers to fail. So CR&R lost the ability to receive telephone and email communications from the village and other customers. This was resolved the next day on October 28th. Another example, on November 29th, the city notified CR&R that its Laguna Woods specific email address was not operating, and this was resolved the next day on November 30th. And another example, on December 8th, city staff notified of a concern regarding a bulky item collection vehicle parked at Clubhouse 4. The resolution on December 13th, CR&R notified the city that the driver was reassigned and will no longer be operating within the village. As a possible next step, based on the city's discretion, the contract allows the city to hold a performance hearing on a biennial basis to ensure services are being provided with adequate quality, effectiveness, and economy. The first opportunity to hold a performance hearing is July 2023, 18 months into the contract term. As a result of the review, the city may direct or take corrective actions for any performance inadequacies. So that's, again, at the city's discretion if they feel that that is necessary. So that's my quick update this morning on solid waste handling within the village. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the next item in business is the open forum, 3 minutes per speaker. At this time, members only may address the Board of Directors regarding items not on the agenda and within the jurisdiction of this Board of Directors. The board reserves the right to limit the total amount of time allotted for the open forum to 30 minutes. A member may speak only once during the forum. So the speakers may not give their name to another person, no audio or video recording by attendees, no rude or threatening comments, and members can attend the meeting by joining Zoom, and the number is 981-312-57242, and I'll repeat that, 981-312-57242, or call 669-900-6833, or email meeting@vmsinc.org to have your message read during the open forum. So I'll turn it over to staff. Do we have any speakers today?
Yes, first speaker is Cheryl Finnick.
Okay.
This is about the water turn off and turn on rule. I'm a condo owner. I've got a plumbing issue. I called my plumber. I followed the rule. I did not turn the water on and off in the building by myself because I believe in rules. And so I called up my home warranty provider. They said, okay, the plumber will be out on a certain date between 8 a.m. and 12 noon. Then I came to resident services. They said, you have a 2-hour plumbing time. So I'm asking you, if my plumbers are going to come out between 8 a.m. and noon, and resident services says I've got to give them a 2-hour time, what 2 hours do I choose? 8 and 10, 8:30 to 10:30? I mean, it's insane. And let me just preface this by saying the staff is exemplary. They tried so hard to help me out, but they said the board ruled on this. I also appreciate there's a rule for it, and you don't want the plumbing to be messed up. You have to control it. I get that whole reason for it. But sometimes what's on paper is not necessarily good in reality. A 4-hour time period is industry standard. You guys do it for yourself with cable people, non-emergency plumbing, electric. You give us a 4-hour period of time. Now let's get to the second part. For the stress of this, you charge us $25, which again, I don't mind. You have to charge it. But not only $25 for asking to the water, you then pay the plumber $71 and change to come out to go eek, eek. And then, and so that's a portion of the $71. Again, there's so many people turning the water on and off by themselves because of the stuff that you have to go through. I mean, the stress, the reality. I'm willing to fix the plumbing because I'm responsible for it. But gosh darn, folks, 4 hours for my plumber, 2 hours, what do I do? So what I'm asking you, and I know you have a huge agenda, if you respond to the people speaking, I would like to ask individually, each of you, what 2 hours would you have chose between 8 a.m. and noon? That's a choice I had. Because if my plumbers had to wait a half hour to have them turn on the water again, because they came out to turn on the water at 10 and my plumbers came out at 10, I would have to pay again the plumber to come out and off. So anyway, that's my tale of woe, and I'd really like a response to it. Thanks so much.
Thank you. So the next speaker?
Next speaker is Robert Reyes.
Good morning, neighbors. Happy New Year. Thank you for your service. As a docent and ambassador of our community, thank you for selecting me. I love this community. I have 10 years here, and I believe in having a plan for the future. So I just retired, and I want to be active in my community. So excuse my ignorance if you've already addressed the following. I'm concerned about the cost of insurance and utilities and the lack of federal capping and oversight. I'm not sure what we'll do in the future. I'm saying this because we have land as a community. You have land that we can perhaps think of a plan to create passive income in the future that will help us continue not having a special assessment. Knock on wood, we haven't yet in all these years. With that said, I encourage and I love the fact that we have many clubs and organizations that want to do good, like the pickleball courts. I think that's a wonderful thing, but that's a lot of land that perhaps can generate passive income that we'll need in the future. If I could travel back in time, I would have kept the old community office that we sold for $3 million. Can you imagine how much money it would be worth now and what we could do to generate positive funds from keeping that? As an investor in real estate and having rentals, that's where I'm coming from. I know that we're nonprofit, but we could perhaps create a profit entity that can donate to the nonprofit. I'm just throwing out ideas. Perhaps you've been through this many times. I'm new, but I want to encourage clubs to do good like the pickleball and have good ideas, but I also believe in the future. As I attend meetings, I see people concerned because they're living off Social Security and that's their entire retirement. And yes, we can say, well, that was never meant to be your entire retirement, you know. But I'm thinking about the future again and what we're going to do as a community if we don't get control over the future expenses. And I'm just throwing out ideas. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have another speaker?
Let me check here. We did get some email attachments, but they do pertain to the new business item for EV charging station. So I'll read those when that item is up.
Okay. So there's no other speakers?
No other speakers at this time.
Okay, thank you. So do we have a response to the speakers?
Yes. Madam Chair.
Okay, Joan?
Response to Cheryl Fennick. That is a mutual problem, Cheryl. You need to take it to the, are you in third board? And they also have a meeting for such complaints, and that's the best we can offer you. Okay.
It's okay.
Yes, understandable.
And looks like Debbie wanted to speak. And you're
muted.
You're muted.
No, she's not muted, but she's not hooked up.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I have a new computer and it's, that's what happens. This is for Mr. Reyes, and I want to tell him that we appreciate his interest. And yes, he's right. We have talked about a lot of these things for a very long time. But if you have ideas, we welcome specific ideas with the problem and a solution. Because what happens is when we hear, we should do this or we should have done that, we can't look at the past. We can only look at the future. So what you might want to do is, pen some ideas out and bring them to the next strategic planning meeting, which we haven't scheduled yet, but it will be in the next few months, and bring them. We're always open to ideas for passive income, but our land use and what we own currently, it has been looked at extensively as to what could or could not be done with the specific pieces of land. And we do, although it looks like we have things, some of it's not buildable. Some of it has some other issues. So this is something we've constantly looked at in both strategic planning. CAC looks at it regularly. So come with some specific ideas and we're more than happy to listen to them. But thank you for being interested in bettering our community.
Thank you. And my comment also to Mr. Reyes is the pickleball project basically would generate revenue. And that's what made the proposals so interesting to GRF, is because it wouldn't cost us to build it. And then when it is built, it's turned over to GRF, and the revenue generated from it would also maintain it and also generate some revenue, although at this point in time, we have no idea until we see the full proposal. So thank you. Any other responses? No other responses, okay. So the next item is the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are recommended for action by committees and will be enacted by the board by one motion. In the event an item is removed from the consent calendar by members of the board, such item shall be subject to further discussion and action by the board. Recommendation from the Finance Committee. A, consistent with its statutory obligations, a subcommittee of the board consisting of the treasurer and at least one other board member reviewed and approved preliminary Golden Rain Foundation financials for the month of November 2022 by this vote ratify that such revenue be confirmed in this month's board member open session meeting minutes. Okay, so do I have a motion? So move, okay. So the consent calendar, is there any objections? The consent calendar is approved. So the next item is unfinished business. And item A is to entertain a motion to approve the 2023 Aqueduct's billing. And this has already been satisfied in regards to the 28-day review. So Joan, would you please read the resolution?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 90-22-XX, 2023 Aqueducts billing. Whereas the Aqueducts are a community club who offer an annual Aquafollies water show, synchronized swimming, at Pool 1. The show takes place over the course of 3 days in the summer months. The Aqueducts have been performing for village residents for more than 55 years. And whereas, due to the nature of the show, alternative accommodations are needed to host an event at Pool 1, including, but not limited to, rental chairs for audience seating, set up around the perimeter of the pool, and lifeguard services during rehearsals and shows. And whereas on June 29, 2017, the Aqueducts received approval for the fixed dollar amount of $1,250 for services rendered. And whereas on December 9, 2021, Community Activities Committee reviewed the fixed dollar amount and advised staff to proceed with the 2022 show at the same cost due to prior shows being canceled during COVID. And whereas the cost to support the 2022 show was $5,135, GRF waived $3,885 in event expenses. Staff estimates a total cost of $5,181 for 2023 services and equipment rentals, an increase of approximately $46. And whereas the 2023 business plan does not include an allocation for the Aquafollies show in 2023, and whereas on November 19, 2022, the Community Activities Committee recommended increasing the fixed dollar amount by $1,000, totaling $2,250 for services rendered. Now, therefore, be it resolved, January 3, 2023, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts the proposed increase of the fixed dollar amount of $1,000, totaling $2,250 for services rendered, and resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized to carry out this resolution. I move that we approve the Aqueducts 2023 billing.
I second that motion.
Who seconded? Elsie?
Elsie,
Thank you.
are there any objections? If there are no objections, the motion to approve 2023 Aqueducts billing is approved. Thank you. So the next item is to entertain a motion to approve changes to West Coast Internet rates, and the 28-day notice for review has been satisfied. So Joan, do you want to read the resolution?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 90-22-XX, Internet Speed Service Level Improvements and Rate Adjustment. Whereas demand for higher levels of Internet speed in the village has grown 21.75% from October 2021 to October 2022. During that same period, subscribers to the lowest tier of service fell 6.73%. And whereas this demand for higher levels of Internet speed and bandwidth in the village is attributable to residents' use of an increasing number of Wi-Fi enabled devices such as smart TVs, smart speakers, smartphones, tablets, laptops, watches, medical services, video doorbells, security systems, and so on, as well as content streaming services such as Netflix and Hulu. And whereas, recognizing this need to supply faster tiers of speed, the GRF board is working with its contracted vendor, West Coast Internet, to increase internet speeds and adjust internet rates for the first time since 2014. And whereas on November 21st, 2022, the GRF Media and Communications Committee reviewed and recommends the Board of Directors adopt the improved internet speed level tiers of service and an adjustment of monthly rates. Now therefore be it resolved, January 3rd, 2023, that the Board of Directors of this corporation approve the following internet speed level tiers and rates effective February 1st, 2023. For the speed, the lowest speed is 15 megabytes per second at an old rate of $23.50. The new proposed rate is $26.50 with an increase of $3. And they will be upgraded to 30 megabytes per second. The old speed of 30 megabytes per second was a charge of $28.50 will increase to $36.50, an increase of $8 with an upgrade of speed to 65 megabytes per second. The old speed of 50 megabytes per second with an old charge of $38.50 is increased to $45, an increase of $6.50, but with an increase in megabytes to 125 megabytes per second. And the old speed of 100 megabytes per second with a charge of $48.75, the new rate will be $56.50, an increase of $7.75 with an upgrade to 250 megabytes per second. And there is a new rate which will be 500 megabytes per second, and with a new rate of a new charge. The residents currently subscribe to the 15 megabytes level will be moved to 30 megabytes. However, this level of service will no longer be offered to new subscribers. Residents subscribing to the new 500 megabytes per second will require a DOCSIS 3.1 modem. Residents will receive levels of service with no data cap in all categories. Resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution. I move that we approve the new internet speed service level improvements and rate adjustment. And Debbie seconds. Thank you. Discussion.
Are there any objections? So if there is no objections, the motion to approve changes to the West Coast Internet rates has satisfied its 28-day notification for member review is passed. And I just want to make a comment. These changes in this internet rates are really benefits the community. It helps us to, as we go forward with more streaming and higher rates. And if you really look at the rates and you want to lower what you have, the highest rate at this point in time, there will be some cost savings. So I just wanted to point that out to you so that you will really evaluate what speed you are using today and what speed you think you will need tomorrow. So thank you. And you wanted to make a comment, Debbie?
Yeah, I do. I just want to say pretty much my entire Let's Talk Tech show in February is going to discuss internet and speeds and what is necessary. But it is true that over half the people using the internet could go to save up to $3 per month. So I want people to understand that that the higher speeds, you may or may not need the higher speed, depending on how to look at what you're using it now. So I urge people to become educated, to find out what they have in their home and what they actually need to go forwards. But this is a good thing for our community because we do need to keep current with what's available out there. So I think this is a really positive move for us. So thank you.
Thank you. So the next item is to entertain a motion to approve the anti-harassment, anti-abuse, and anti-intimidation policy joint hearing body. The 28-day notification for member review has been satisfied. And I'm just going to make the comment that basically it is now, this hearing body will be established for GRF and United.
Okay.
So, Joan, please read the resolution.
Right, thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 90-23-XX, anti-harassment, anti-abuse, and anti-intimidation policy and charter of the Joint Hearing Body Committee. Whereas the Board of Directors of United Laguna Woods Mutual, United, and Golden Rain Foundation, GRF, require a clear and consistent policy to address claims of harassment, abuse, and intimidation by directors to staff of Village Management Services, Inc., fellow directors, and residents, as well as claims involving harassment, abuse, and intimidation by residents to staff of VMS, directors, and other residents. And whereas this anti-harassment, anti-abuse, and anti-intimidation policy, known as policy, is intended to provide guidance relative to such behavior and issue a mechanism for addressing same by the Anti-Harassment, Anti-Abuse, and Anti-Intimidation Joint Hearing Body Committee. And whereas this policy is being adopted by the Board of Directors of GRF and United in the exercise of their respective duties to maintain, protect, and enhance the value and desirability of Laguna Woods Village and the interests of all of its members. Now therefore be it resolved, January 3rd, 2023, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts the anti-harassment, anti-abuse, and anti-intimidation policy and charter of the Joint Hearing Body Committee as attached to the official minutes of this meeting. And resolve further that Resolution 90-22-39, adopted September 6th, 2022, is hereby suspended and canceled, and resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out the purpose of this resolution. I move that we approve this resolution. Juanita
Thank you.
seconds. Okay.
Okay, are there any objections? So if there are no objections, the motion to approve anti-harassment, anti-abuse, and anti-intimidation policy forming a hearing body is approved. Thank you. So the next item is the update the committee appointments. Joan? I'm glad you liked it.
Resolution 90 thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 90-22-XX, GRF committee appointments. I will read the new parts to this resolution. Resolved January 3rd, 2023, that the following persons are hereby appointed and ratified to serve on the committees of this corporation. Under the Strategic Planning Committee, Reza Bastiani from United is on short-term leave. Lenny Ross from United is appointed his temporary fill-in. Rainer Rothberg from Mutual 50 has been relieved. Community Services Activity, Annie McCary has been relieved. Kush Bahad has been added for third. Rainer Rothberg, Mutual 50, has been relieved. Frank Stern, Mutual 50, has been added. Peter Sanborn, as the alternate for Mutual 50, has been added. Under the Finance Committee, Al Amato from Mutual 50 has been relieved, and Margaret Bennett from Mutual 50 has been added. No changes in ITAC committee. The Landscape Committee, Annie McCary, alternate from 3rd, has been dropped, and Lynn Jarrett has been, under advisors, has been dropped. Maintenance and Construction Committee, Reza Bastiani from United is on short-term leave. Allison Bach from United has his temporary fill-in. And Peter Sanborn, as an alternate from Mutual 50, has been added. No change in the Clubhouse Renovation Ad Hoc Committee. Under Media and Communications, Annie McCary from 3rd has been dropped. Chris Prince has become the regular member from 3rd. Moon Yoon has become the alternate from 3rd. Rainer Rothberg from Mutual 50 has been dropped. Margaret Bennett from Mutual 50 has been added, and Peter Sanborn is the alternate for Mutual 50. Under the advisors, Lynn Jarrett has been dropped. Under the website ad hoc committee, Annie McCary from 3rd has been deleted. Mark Laws from 3rd has become a regular member from 3rd, and Lynn Jarrett has been dropped from the advisors for that. Under the broadband ad hoc committee, Sue Stevens has been added as an alternate for Mutual 50. The Mobility and Vehicles Committee, Moon Yun has been added from 3rd. Allison Bach has been added from United. Frank Stern has been added from Mutual 50. Margaret Bennett has been dropped from Mutual 50. Security Community Access Committee, Annie McCary from 3rd has been dropped. Moon Yun from 3rd has been added. Peter Sanborn has been added as the alternate for Mutual 50. The Disaster Preparedness Committee, Allison Bach has been added from United. John Carter from Mutual 50 has been dropped. Rick Copps, resident from Mutual 50, has been added. And Sue Stevens is the alternate from Mutual 50, has been added. Under the Laguna Woods Village traffic hearings, board members by rotation, Mutual 50 has been dropped. Margaret Bennett from Mutual 50 has been added. Sue Stevens, alternate from Mutual 50, has been added. The Purchasing Ad Hoc Committee remains the same. The Select Audit Task Force remains the same. The Insurance Ad Hoc Committee has been dropped in total. The Compliance Ad Hoc Committee, Annie McCary has been dropped, and Chris from 3rd and Chris Prince from 3rd has been added. Resolved further that Resolution 90-2258 adopted December 6th of 2022 is hereby superseded and canceled, and resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized on behalf of the corporation to carry out this resolution. I move that we approve this resolution. Second? Jim.
Second, thank you. Are there any objections? So if there are no objections, the update on the committee appointments is approved. Thank you. So we move on to new business, and the first item is entertain a motion to approve Rock and Rollers Club exception request clubhouse holiday hours. And this is basically for a special event that would be held on November 11th, and the hours would be extended to 10 p.m. So Joan, would you please read the resolution?
Thank you. Resolution 90-23-XX. Rock and Rollers Club exception request to clubhouse holiday hours. Whereas the Recreation and Special Events Department oversees all recreation facilities, on May 5th, 2020, GRF approved and adopted clubhouse holiday hours, Resolution 90-20-19, allowing all clubhouses to close at 2 p.m. on Veterans Day, beginning January 2021. And whereas Rock and Rollers requested for an exception to clubhouse holiday hours and is requesting to meet in Clubhouse 5 on Saturday, November 11th, 2023, from 3 to 10 p.m. And whereas on December 8th, 2022, the Community Activities Committee approved the request for exception to extend the holiday hours on November 11th, 2023, and extra fees to be paid by the Rock and Rollers Club. And whereas full-time and part-time hourly staff who are scheduled to work on one of the designated VMS holidays receive holiday pay equal to 1.5 times base pay. And whereas the Rock and Rollers Club reservation is for 7 hours, setup and breakdown of the main lounge takes a total of 4 hours. The cost to staff Rock and Rollers Club on November 11th, 2023 is approximately $477. Total includes wage rate plus holiday pay, burden rate, and overhead rate. The labor, $477, and room rental of $170, total $647. Now therefore be it resolved January 3rd, 2023, that the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts the exception to extend the holiday hours on November 11th, 2023, and extra fees to be paid by the Rock and Rollers Club. And resolve further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized to carry out this resolution. I move that we approve this resolution. Who seconds?
Second.
Reza, thank you.
Are there any objections? So there's no objections. The motion to approve Rock and Rollers Club exception request to clubhouse holiday hours is approved, so thank you. Does this require 28 days?
Sorry. 12B.
Does this require 28 days?
No.
Oh, no.
No.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, so the next item is to entertain a motion to cancel all remaining electrical vehicle charging station applications under SEC Charge Ready 2 program. But before we make the motion, I'd like to have Bart Mahia report on this. Thank you.
Okay, before Bart start, I just want to say a
Okay.
couple of words.
Okay.
On December 12, we met in Clubhouse 5 regarding the SCE proposal. And the meeting was focused on the proposal, not other issues. The staff made a detailed presentation regarding the SCE proposal. And then it was open to director and members' comment. There were a lot of comments, some of them related to the proposal, some of them not related to the proposal. And at the end, a motion was made and carried to recommend the board approve the cancellation of the remaining application under this program. But due to some of the comments that I made, I asked staff to incorporate some of those related into the proposal, into the presentation, and bring it back. So before this board vote, you're going to hear the updated one, although I want to mention that none of those changes that was made really changed the nature of the proposal. It was just comment that was incorporated. So for that, would you please listen to the brief presentation by the staff, and then you guys can decide what we're going to do with this issue. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Chair Karimi. Madam President, members of the board, I appreciate the opportunity to present to you this item before you. As Second Vice President Karimi stated, we presented this item to the MNC Committee on the 12th. The presentation included the latest updates from Edison, the latest feasibility studies, received comments from the members, and we have now incorporated those comments within the staff report, and they will be a part of the presentation that will follow shortly. Just in summary, some of the comments that were received included a more detailed breakdown of what we consider the rough order of magnitude for GRF's share of the cost, which is part of your staff report. Providing a list or a map showing where the nearby charging stations are located. The additional data on the community center charging station that will break down not only the energy that is being dispensed, but how it is broken down by registered residents and non-registered residents, and that is also a part of the presentation that you're going to see shortly. And more detailed information as to the reasons why staff is recommending canceling the remaining applications. So with that, I'd like to start by stating that GRF has applied for assistance with the installation of electric vehicle charging stations under the SCE Charge Ready 2 program. More specifically, under the Charging Infrastructure and Rebate Program, where Edison pays for the planning, design, and construction of the infrastructure from Edison's transformer through the meter and up to the charging stations, where they will stub out ready for GRF to install the charging equipment. And GRF is also responsible for its maintenance and the associated Edison fees that goes with that. You will see a slide, about 3 slides from now, where we show the detail of the rough order of magnitude. It includes more details as to these items that I just mentioned. The minimum number of ports, that is, not the number of bollards or charging stations, but the ones that actually connect to the vehicles, as directed by the board, was limited to 10 ports per site. Of the 7 clubhouses, 4 of the clubhouses are recommended to be rejected due to a number of reasons that Edison found that it will not make it feasible, including the cost of the infrastructure, parking requirements, and the proximity to the transformer. The remaining clubhouses are clubhouses 3, 4, and 5, and you will see some aerials as to what the recommended location for each one of those locations is. And note that, and I'll be going in more detail with each one of those, that one of the requirements is that any selected site provide ADA compliant accessible parking for these charging stations. And the count is a minimum of 2, 1 van accessible and 1 regular handicap parking. The next slide will show an aerial view of clubhouse number 3. The area that you see highlighted in red, and by the way, we've provided copies of this PowerPoint presentation for your reference. Additional copies are here for the audience if they wish to get copies of this. So the area that is highlighted in red is the location that Edison found as the most feasible location. Again, it is for 10 ports. Given that this is angled parking, this specific location requires using a minimum of 12 existing parking spaces to accommodate the 2 handicap parking stalls that will go with this. The transformer that they will be tapping into is just above the building that's labeled Clubhouse 3. So it is a relative short run. Edison proposes to bring the power from that transformer over to the charging stations and then provide parking lot modifications to meet the new grades required for ADA, as well as a clear definition of the path of travel from the charging stations to Clubhouse 3. The next aerial is for Clubhouse 4. For Clubhouse 4, again, I'm highlighting the area that Edison proposes is the most feasible location. Originally, GRF had applied for installation of the charging stations at the end of the cul-de-sac, just below this red area, but the distance was too high, so this one became the most feasible location. Again, 10 ports. This one utilizes 11 existing parking spaces to accommodate the ADA requirements. And for Clubhouse 4, which is our next aerial, I'm sorry, we're just reviewing Clubhouse 4. Clubhouse 5, for that, they have selected, or they recommend the area that is highlighted in red, just to the north of Clubhouse 5. Again, this one utilizes 11 parking spaces to accommodate the 10 ports, plus the parking improvements. Our next slide shows a more detailed breakdown of the estimate and how we arrived at the estimate that GRF will be responsible for a total of $150,000 per site, where you will see that the upfront cost will be for the installation of the charging stations, the purchase of the equipment, setting it up, and its maintenance, with $19,200 to be paid in monthly payments of $159 per month as the SCE charge for the duration of this program. There's a minimum period of time that GRF will need to keep this functioning, and that is a period of 10 years. And that is one of the commitments. There are additional commitments that we will need to consider and take action, such as the execution of an easement for any location that is selected to move forward, if any. The next slide is one of the attachments to your staff report as well. It's been slightly modified. We just received the most recent Edison bill for this facility, which is the one that provides power to the charging station, and it shows the new winter rates. You will see that the last two lines have been changed from your report, showing that the new winter rates are much lower than the summer rates, and that the current usage, it is not longer in the negative, it is in the positive, and should remain like that for the duration of the winter rates. Once the summer rates come back, if no changes are made to the charging rates, and this is an item that we're going to bring before the committee and you at a future time to consider an adjustment to the rates. We will look at the rates of the surrounding charging stations and for us to be within a certain percentage of those rates so that they remain competitive. The next slide shows the breakdown of the users of the charging station here at the community center. You see that about 30% of the users are registered residents, and the balance is from the general public. So as a recommendation based on a review of what it will take to implement these charging stations, dedicating the number of parking spaces that, as mentioned before, for some of the clubhouses, it became unfeasible because as per planning, per the city's planning department, they are underparked. Allowing these parking spaces to be used for the charging stations will prevent any future expansion of any of the clubhouses that will require additional parking, and we do not know what that will be in the next 10 years. So just to be aware, even for those clubhouses that have met the requirements, know that once assigned to the charging stations, They cannot be used for any other purpose. If there is a deficiency in the future for any expansion of any of the clubhouses, we will either have to find additional parking elsewhere or file for a variance. The other consideration that staff took into account is the out-of-pocket expense for the installation, and that even though we're getting assistance from Edison, it's still an expensive undertaking at this time. Please note that one of the comments that were made and that I'd like to clarify is that the board has the option to consider moving forward with any one of the three recommended SCE recommended locations, any of them or none at all, or as staff recommended, rejecting or canceling all of the applications at this time until either the demand increases or other funding opportunities are available. With that, that concludes my presentation. I am available to answer any questions that you may have.
Juanita?
It's my understanding that EV chargers will be put into the new City Hall parking lot when that's finished with the new library because it's new construction. Do you have any information on how many will be put there?
I have some information. I believe it is one boiler with 2 ports. They are level 2 chargers. I approached the city to see if there was an opportunity to upgrade that charging station to a fast charger so they will be more beneficial to the community. But the program under which they applied will not allow them to do that. Similar to ours, it only allows for level 2 charging.
Okay, well, I've got one more question.
Okay.
The proposal, and I do support dissolving this proposal, really boxes us in for 10 years at level 2s, top level 2s, and some level 1s. And to me, that's just unreasonable with technology changing as much as it is. For the next 10 years, we need to be at least level 3 chargers with anything that we put in. And I just think that to tie us in for 10 years at level 2s are unreasonable. And last but not least, I think we really needs to increase the charge for the non-residents at our existing ones because it's not level with what they're getting elsewhere.
So, Egon, did you have a question?
Yes, on page 7, the cost table, shouldn't there be, is there a charge from ChargePoint Corporation for servicing the 7 units behind the community center? There's no charge on here, but does not ChargePoint charge us for their services?
So the chart that you see there on slide number 7 has already subtracted ChargePoint's charges. So when you see where you see the revenue amount, that column already reflects any charges that ChargePoint charges us for the maintenance of these charging stations.
I'm sorry, where is that? Which column is that included in?
It's slide number 7,
Yeah.
the revenue column.
Yeah. So the revenue is what we collect, right?
That's
And
what
you're
we.
saying ChargePoint takes a certain amount of money out of that?
There is a fee that they take out of that amount to maintain and monitor the charging stations.
So what is that fee?
And I am sorry, I don't have that figure in front of me. It's a small amount, but I don't have that figure in front of me. I can provide that to you with the next report.
Okay. Thank you.
So what you're saying, that the revenue already consider those fees? That the revenue is minus those fees, or revenues included those fees? I'm not clear what
The
you're saying.
revenue that is listed under that column already subtracts whatever charges ChargePoint charges us for its maintenance.
Okay, so this is what the revenue is after all the costs and recognized by the charge point.
Correct. That's from ChargePoint's perspective. The next column that you see there is the cost of electricity, and then the net amount is the last column.
That's great. And on number 8, that's for the full 22, year 22, right?
That is correct.
So we have every 3 cars that charge back there, 2 of them are non-registered, non-residents?
Approximately one third.
So for the whole year, we had 1,600 cars that charge back there, which is the members.
Correct.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we read this correctly. Thank you.
Debbie?
Yeah, one of the things I want to say about this is that we've been looking at this for some time and trying to make this work for our community. And it's been really challenging, as most people who've listened in on any of these meetings know. But chargers will be a part of our future in the whole world, in the whole area in California. But with this most recent federal budget of $1.7 trillion, the federal government has included a lot of money to put in chargers. And I think that we're going to see more advantageous programs coming out in the next year or so that will get us the type of chargers that we want for the future. Going back to Juanita's point, that level 2 chargers aren't going to be enough. And if a 10-year commitment is a little bit it's not beneficial to have a 10-year commitment to any of this. And also my research that I did over a period of time was that most of the local gas stations, such as Chevron, are planning to add chargers. And also the new construction at the mall, they're going to have a number of chargers of various types. I just think we're going to always chase our tail on keeping up to the current technology if we go with this current SCE Charge Ready program. I feel confident that we will have other options that present themselves to us as a community for EV in the next year or two that will benefit us much more greatly than this. And I'm not on M&C. I wasn't a part of this vote, but I will be a part of this vote today. And I just don't think this is the plan for us. And I'm not opposed to EV at all. And most of you know who've talked to me know that. But I just feel like we're not in a position with what this offer is to do this at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Reza? Oh,
Joe?
Joe?
Should I make a motion?
Yes.
Let me just...
Well, was there any more
We can continue the
comments?
discussion after we make a motion.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I move that we accept this
Recommendation from...
this question to cancel the electric vehicle charging station applications under the SCE Charge Ready 2 program.
I second.
Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I just... Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, because I'm on the CAC committee, I think that you should do a little bit more research. We have a lack of parking at Clubhouse 4 and at the PAC. And we can't afford to lose those parking spaces, especially if we have 2 things going on at the PAC. People are parking in the streets. So, we need to look further for other places. And like I suggested mentioned, the auxiliary parking lot over by Clubhouse 1, a lot of times that's not even used. So maybe that's a consideration. That's my comment. Thank you.
If I may add to that, because that's one of the preferred locations that I asked Edison to find a way to recommend approval for that. However, from a planning perspective, when looking at the parking requirements for Clubhouse 1, it is underparked as per the current standards. So even that overflow parking lot. It is part of the parking count, and we could not make that work at this time.
Okay, Reza?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we all understand, this is just for the SCE application cancellation. The EV charging issue going to be with this community regardless. We need to look at that collectively as a village issue, not just, a part of the issue from, public areas and all of that. At the same time, I think staff were looking at all the available station around here, and they're going to publish that, if I'm correct, or over a TV6 or whatever is necessary. I go on TV and talk about it, where they're located, so people know what are the fast charging stations around here that can be used. Probably more convenient than having it in Clubhouse. If you are Gate 1, you want to come to Clubhouse 5, probably it's easier to go somewhere else to do that. But the point is that we have an issue called energy issue at the village. We need to solve that because, I just get a little bit personal in that, say that if I buy the EV car, I don't want, my concern is that I want to do it in my carport. People that have garage have no problem. But if I have a carport, I can still do it, but I'm not going to be efficient at all. So we need to look at the energy issue within the community. And also this proposal for 10 years committing to a technology that might be changing in 2 years, that's not advisable. If any of us know about the technology, they change every year. There are a lot of, patent going on with the different way to charge batteries. And as one of the wise men on this board said, that James, that one of the patent that was approved, they're using the satellite to charge the batteries. I mean, if that case, put your car wherever you want and use your cell phone to charge your battery. But those are all the things that are coming up. And as a community, we need to look at all of those and not commit ourselves to something that might be obsolete within a short period of time. That's my advice, that's my input. But, we are going to be facing this issue regardless. But this is just for the SCE. Do we want to commit ourselves to this for 10 years? That was the question. Thank you.
So I want to thank you for this presentation and for Reza addressing this, because the comments recently after we had that special meeting for the MNC was, how did we make a decision so quickly? And so many people out there assume that GRF doesn't thoroughly investigate the issue before making a decision. So I want to thank you, Bart, and I want to thank Reza for bringing this to the attention of the community, to know that we are always aware, we are always alert, and we do make professional decisions based upon details that are presented to us. So are there any other comments then? Okay, all right.
We do have a few comments that were emailed in, and then there was Ann Beltran on Zoom who's requesting to speak as well, so I'll pull her in right now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm encouraged today by the remarks of some of the directors on GRF, particularly the remarks of Director Karimi, Juanita Skillman, Debbie Dotson, and the commitment to continuing forward with the research and development angles that VMS will have to undertake for us. That's really what I wanted to hear, that we are cognizant this issue is not going away, that GRF is not washing its hands of the need to address this issue on an ongoing basis, our electric infrastructure. At one of the recent meetings, Bart said that our average annual increase in electrical costs is going to be 5%. So a 5% average increase year over year going forward, which will really begin to hit our HOA fees, residents' individual costs, and there is just a lot of pressure for us to keep going forward looking at this issue of upgrading our electric infrastructure. And I hope that the board will be open to directing VMS to continue a lot of research on solar and to engaging us all in a community learning experience around how we can use solar in the village to keep our electrical costs down. So thank you to those directors who are voicing these concerns and these commitments. Thank you.
Do we have any other comments?
Sorry.
Oh, one more?
Yeah, we have one
Okay,
more.
And then Juanita, okay.
Yeah, we have one more in person,
Okay.
and we have 3 emails that were sent in from residents. So the
Okay.
next person is Philip Erms.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I think it's important to look at this from a business perspective. I think you won't know what's a good idea until 2024, because all this stuff is just evolving right now with the $1 billion donation that the government has just given these EV charger companies. They are going to compete against each other like mad, and the village won't stand a chance competing against these free enterprise systems. For example, there is going to be a convention here in Orange County at the end of March where all the EV charger companies will attend. It's a national convention, and they're just putting tons of money right into that. And they're working in a situation where they have a vertically integrated company. They have one company that knows all the federal regulations, that can help you with all the federal regulations and state regulations. They have another company that will provide you with all the equipment, and a third company which will install it and maintain it for you. So they have vertically integrated companies, and they do all these services. Now, what you really need for EV chargers is first you need a level 3 at least, and we have a level 3 even behind the Union Bank. There's one. The problem is right now it's all in a flux, so you don't know what's going to happen. It's much better to sit back and let the contractors compete against each other for all these services. And for example, what you really need is you need high traffic for a business perspective. You need high traffic, and you need driver downtime. And you have to figure out, well, where are you going to get those things? Well, you're going to get it in a grocery store. That's a nice place to have. You're going to get it at a movie house. That's a nice place to have it. You're going to get it at the mall. That's a nice place to have it. Right now, everything's just upset. For example, I had my neighbor who doesn't drive, but she was driven by a friend who has an EV in Newport Beach. Lo and behold, this lady needed to recharge her EV. So she goes to this recharge place, and they might have 10 rechargers, but because they have so few for the crowd, they limit it to 30 minutes. And they turn the machine off after 30 minutes. And all of a sudden, these people are all arguing with each other, even though the car is sitting there, and the guy's gone, the 30 minutes are up, but he's not moving his car, So you get all these people arguing with each other over a limited resource. And that's what we have now. It won't stabilize out until 2024.
Thank you. Your
Okay.
time is up. Thank you very much.
And then we have a few emails. So the first one's from Joseph Surrey. And they said, "Dear members of the Golden Rain Foundation Board of Directors, I would encourage you to continue the work of our staff with Southern California Edison in pursuit of further protecting our HOA from rising electricity and fuel costs by conserving energy and in continuing investing in proven cost avoidance measures. Principal among these cost-constraining measures and revenue-enhancing steps would be to promote further deployment of solar panels in clubhouses and installing EV charging in appropriate shared areas. For that reason, I strongly suggest you roundly reject the motion to cancel all the remaining electric vehicle charging station applications under the SCE Charge Ready 2 program. Instruct the staff to continue working with SCE, Third, and United Mutuals to further the work begun by previous GRF board members to continue ways to improve the village by keeping down costs from rising fuel and electricity prices. I ask you 3 basic questions. 1, why leave money on the table by not raising prices on existing EV chargers to make more revenue? 2, how is it you would pass up a chance to contain rising utility and petrol costs by refusing to deploy EV chargers that over time earn money from user fees? And 3, to better inform yourselves, staff and residents, I ask you, why not revive the energy task force created by a previous GRF board? Keeping HOA expenses from increasing due to rising utility rates and higher petroleum prices can be effectively addressed only by working together with residents, rewarding the staff work they have already spent time on exploring with SCE, and assuring that you build upon the reported and anticipated revenues from the existing EV chargers by continuing to expand measures that will contain costs in the coming years and thus restrain HOA fees based on rising utility and energy costs." The next one's from Mary Sinclair, and they said, "Dear GRF board members, I am one of many, many residents who do not own an EV right now, but one day I will, and so will everyone else in the village. When I transition to electric, going outside the gates to charge my car will be unthinkable when there are electric plugs right in our carports. We don't live in a bubble here, and I accept the expenses, including electric, are rising all around us, but I can't accept having to pay more than for the expense of my EV charging because the committee failed to recognize EV charging as an immediate necessity and delayed addressing this need. The report on EV charging usage here shows it doubled just this past year. The trend will undoubtedly continue and demand will increase dramatically. This will be lost revenue unless the board addresses the dilemma immediately and with due diligence. Right now is the time to act. Thank you for your careful consideration." And the final one is from Lynn Finkoller. And they said, "Standalone solar cost a lot less than charging stations. Plus, we would own them. GRF should research putting several in a clubhouse parking lot and charging a fee. Taking some action in this area is better than saying no and doing nothing to address our infrastructure limitations." And that is all from the residents.
Thank you. And then I think Juanita had a question.
Well, it's more of a comment. I just wanted to reply to a couple of those. We are not saying no to EV charging. We are saying no to an SCE charge proposal. Now, SCE is looking out for SCE, not our village. SCE is saying we would put them here. We say that's not the best place. They said it's best for us, therefore that's where they would go. And so I think we need to be aware of our needs, continue to study this, to look what's happening in the future. And there's things happening every single day and new technologies. Right now we're talking about EV3 chargers instead of 2s. Well, there's going to be a 4 or 5 in the next couple of years. And so we don't want to shut ourselves off for 10 years because this is what's best for SCE. And they're the ones that make the money off of this.
Thank you, Juanita. Are there any other
Yes.
comments?
I want to just agree with just what Juanita said. SCE is doing what's best for SCE, not for our community. And we're not opposed to EV chargers. We're opposed to this particular proposal.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
There is nothing wrong with SCE looking for SCE. We need to be wiser and make a better choice, that's all. I mean, they're business and they want to make money. We are a community, we want to fix income. We want to make sure we make the right decision and control our costs. That's all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments?
Well, I have one. I'm wondering what the mutuals are doing about charging. I know.
That's off
That's a
topic.
good
That's
question.
off topic. That's off
But it
topic.
needs to be taken back to the mutuals. I always hear rumors, and I don't know exactly what they're doing, but the rumors I hear is they're continually looking at ways to be able to work with within the mutual to solve that problem.
So they're doing the same thing we're doing.
Yes, yes,
Great minds run along the same track.
right. Thank you. If there's no more comments, are there any objections to the motion? So if there are no objections, the proposal for the application, SEC application to cancel it has been approved. So thank you. So the next item is entertain a motion to approve GRF credit card and transaction fee active debt. Now, this will go on a 28-day notification for member review. So before I have Joan read the resolution, I want to make it very clear that this is a transaction fee for the credit cards for recreation events, but it does not include the PAC or golf golf and the PAC I know for sure. I don't know the other uses that we have in the village here for the credit cards. So it's just for recreation events that we have during the year that you can go online and actually use the credit card. And what has happened is that as this the community has grown and the greater use of the credit card, the cost to GRF has increased because we end up paying for that fee when basically the consensus is that should be a fee that is paid by the member. So I will go ahead, and Joan, would you please read the resolution?
The resolution appears on a white sheet on page 13 of 14. There's been a mistake, so let you know. Resolution 90-23-XX, GRF credit card and transaction fee for ActiveNet. Whereas on April 6, 2010, the board adopted Resolution 90-10-25 approving a Recreation Department software upgrade for event and GRF facilities reservations from Safari to ActiveNet, containing fee-based services. And whereas the Golden Rain Foundation currently absorbs all transaction and credit card fees for in-person purchases and transaction fees associated with ActiveNet. And whereas on December 27, 2022, the Finance Committee approved the CAC recommendation of GRF credit card and transaction fees within ActiveNet be paid by the member for transactions online and in person. And now, therefore, be it resolved, February 7th, that's 2023, the Board of Directors of this corporation hereby adopts the proposed recommendation regarding the ActiveNet credit card and transaction fees incurred by GRF to be paid by the user. Resolved further that the officers and agents of this corporation are hereby authorized to carry out this resolution as written. I move that we approve this resolution for discussion purposes today and postpone the final vote for 28 days per Civil Code 4360. Need a second.
Thank you. Is there a second? Okay.
Nita.
Is there any discussion? No discussion? Okay, that's great. Everybody agrees. Then, is there any objection? So if there's no objection, the motion to approve the GRF credit card and transaction fee will go on 28-day review and is approved. Thank you. So at this point in time, would anybody like to have a break, or shall we continue? You want a break? Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break. It's 11:01, so we'll say 11:05 or 11:06. Okay. Better turn on the microphone. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is committee reports, and the report of the Finance Chair, Director Hopkins.
I guess I'm up. Can everyone hear me? Huh? Everybody left. Okay, let's move on to, thank you, Michaela. Slide 1. Now this chart, as usual, includes all the revenues and expenses, including those designated.
Jim, is your microphone on?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, maybe
Okay.
close to the microphone. Yeah, thank you.
How about now?
Better.
Okay.
Thank you.
This chart includes all revenues and expenses, including those designated for reserves, including investment income, transfer facility fee, and the GRF reserve portion of our HOA fees. It also includes the contingency portion of our HOA fees. This report shows that through November 30th, 2022, GRF had a net revenue of $3,869,000 with a total revenue of $43,867,000 and total expense of $39,998,000. GRF was better than budget by $1,606,000 with total expenses coming in at $2,596,000 better than anticipated. The favorable results seen in expenses were partially offset by lower revenues, that is $990,000. These revenues were significantly impacted by unrealized investment losses this year. Slide 2, please. The next chart displays the operating fund, which excludes the non-operating revenues I mentioned before and depreciation as well. This report shows a favorable variance of $2,294,000 through the reporting period, with expense better than budget by $2,564,000, offset by revenue, which is worse than budget, by $270,000. Slide 3, please. Now, this chart reflects the current market value of the GRF Reserve discretionary investment portfolio and its original market value at the time of inception. You may recall we took on this portfolio back in November of 2019. The current market value of the GRF portfolio is $18,210,000, and that's compared to a value at inception of $19,031,000. The year-to-date market value has decreased by $1,320,000, or 6.8%, and has decreased by $821,000, or 4.3%, since inception. Now, just a word about that. We had an extensive educational meeting at the last finance meeting, December 21st, at which time our investment advisor explained to us how bond funds work, and I won't go into any detail on that now, but it is something that we understand a lot better now, and when interest rates rise very quickly, as they have, actually the quickest interest rates have risen the quickest in the history of this country. And so bond funds are slow to react to that just because of the nature of bond funds. As a result, it takes time for the bond fund to catch up to what's going on with interest rates. In the meantime, the bond funds being sold on open market have less value. The principal is still there. So when you hold a bond to maturity, you still realize the principal, and you get back the principal as well as the interest rate. And so there's very little risk of loss. We just have to make sure we hold on to them until it catches up. Now, with that said, if you're in a cash flow need, you need to take a different action. We also have 6 different funds. Each fund has a different characteristic. So if we were to move out of those funds at any given time, we should carefully look at which funds that we should get out of and when. So that's a more studied process, and we're still looking at that. But I just want everybody to know, because there's been a lot of discussion on bonds and our bond funds and what they look like on paper. And many people have said if it's on paper, then it's for real. Well, with bond funds, that's not necessarily true because there's a market for bonds. The other thing to remember is our bond funds are U.S. Treasuries. About 90% of them are invested in U.S. Treasuries. So the principle is there. We just have to hang in there. But if we ever needed, let's just say for whatever reason, we needed cash right now in order to fund our reserves, then yes, we would be forced to strategically liquidate some of those reserves. That's not the case. And the next chart will show where our reserve fund is. Next chart, please. Okay. The next slide shows that of the $18,210,000 portfolio mentioned, okay, in slide 3, our portfolio value is $15,628,000. In addition to discretionary investments, the reserve fund assets include $11,533,000 in non-discretionary investments of $4,314,000. What that means is, and let me interpret that our portfolio, even though we said it was $18 million, it actually splits between some non-discretionary investments as well as our portfolio investment of $18 million. So this is a little bit complicated here to understand it, but it just says that we're more liquid than it looks like on paper. Slide 5, please. Now back to the operating fund, which has a more significant impact on HOA assessments. This slide shows that the most significant operating variances by category, with the green bars representing favorable variances and the orange bars representing unfavorable variances. There's really no change here since we started this on an ongoing basis. Our employee-related expenses have been favorable against budget, and that's due to still vacancies and the continuing problem or challenge of replacing and filling the slots that are there. The other operating expenses have a positive variance of $220,000, and that's due to the timing of such items like filing fees, permits, and postage. We should see that at the end of the year. We should see that decline just a little bit because as the timing is, we just mailed out some of the. There's a tremendous mailing expense associated with mailing out our fee assessments, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. The next is legal fees, and we've done a really incredible job of holding back on our legal fees, as well as and broadband services revenue is not as high as we had expected and for the budget, and we'll find that that's going to start declining more and more as we move towards streaming. Utilities and telephone expense, there's a negative variance of $323,000. Again, those fees are rising faster than we had anticipated in our budget. Slide 6, please. This slide shows our sources of revenue other than assessments, such as fees and rentals. To date, we've received $9,017,000 of non-assessment operating fee revenue.
By category, we can see that the largest revenue is broadband services. Even though it's behind in our budget, it still is the largest segment of revenue. And that's followed by golf. There's been more golfing during the COVID, and that has continued. And so that revenue is higher than we had expected and still generating 22% of our total revenue. Next chart, please. This chart shows, as usual, that our largest operating expense is compensation, 60%. This is followed by cable programming expense, and of the $35.2 million, excluding depreciation, these two categories account for 71% of our operating expense. Utilities and fuel, insurance, and professional and legal fees make up the remaining 29. If you consider that cable programming is offset by broadband revenue partially, then a compensation expense accounts for 67% of the net expense. Next chart, please. This chart just snapshots our reserve and reserve balance, showing that our ending balance today is $34.9 million, with an adjusted balance based on work in process of $31.5 million. If you look at our contingency fund, which, by the way, includes our surplus for 2021, is $3,813,000. Of that, $900,000 again is that reserve, is that surplus, which will be returned to the residents in 2023 and 2024. Next chart, please. Okay. This chart shows our resale history from 2020 to 2022. The community-wide sales total 833 through November 30th, 2022. Most of these transactions generate the trust facility fee. I want you to notice that in November of 2022, it's basically has been our lowest, on this chart, has been the lowest sales in a given month, except for May 2020 and June 2020. So the interest rates have not only impacted our investment, but has impacted our sales also. Next chart, please. In chart 10, we show a listing of where our reserve money is committed. Of the $15.5 million appropriated by the board for various projects and equipment purchases, the remaining encumbrances on our reserve funds is $10.3 million. And that's primarily for renovation projects. You take a look, we still have the ERP to go. We have the clubhouses, the clubhouse renovation that we've committed, as well as some other GRF activities totaling $1 million. And as usual, we have vehicles. we have vehicles on an ongoing basis. All right. Next chart, please. And again, this just shows our reserve fund and where it's gone over the years. It's been averaging over the years. It's averaging well over $25 million. With now we're at $31.5 million in our reserve fund, and so it's a healthy number. But there's plenty of obligations that we have coming in the future, and so not the least of which is consideration of building E or some other alternative. So all of those things are will put pressure on our reserve balances, and that's the end of my report. Any questions? Yeah.
Thank you. I had a question about slide 10. I'm sorry. I'm glad it was towards the end because after that I couldn't pay attention. On slide number 10, I don't understand the, I'm sorry, I have to, unless somebody nice will put it up for me. Oh, how nice. Okay, I understand what total appropriations, remaining encumbrance means, and remaining encumbrance, and so the total appropriations, oh, it's a different fund. So one's reserve fund is the one's resist.
Yeah, one.
I withdraw my question. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I was doing it fast. I looked at it before, but I didn't catch it.
Any more questions?
Mine's more of a comment. I just want our residents and our viewers to really understand what he's been trying to tell you. We have a fantastic finance department and finance committee and treasurer. The difference between our cash needs, our operating fund, which is totally separate from the reserve fund. We have the work in progress where we need money coming up, where we know we're going to need money. And as he said, we have it in different funds so that we can liquidate when we need that money. But for the most part, over time, we don't need that money immediately. And we're going to get whatever money back that we are supposedly losing on paper in the next few years. And we've got that time because we don't need it in that time. That's what a reserve fund is. It's a savings account that means that this is for the future. We take out only what we need immediately. And most of our operating budget does come from our assessments, not from the reserve fund. And we can't take operating units out of the reserve fund for that. So I think people just need to pay a lot of attention when Jim gives their report because there's a lot of information there.
And perfect segue, speaking of information, this document here, which is, board members get this document, it's called the Green Book, we call it the Green Book, it's actually called the Business Plan. We get a book, it's a physical book. However, all the residents have the same information available to them on the website, in the documents. It's called the Business Plan 2023. It's 219 pages of financial information. And the finance department here at VMS has done a superb job, continues to do a superb job of putting not only this together, but all the day-to-day things that they do for us, including putting my report together, that some of these things just go, we just assume that they happen. This takes a lot of work. And every day they're working, whether it's processing our checks or providing reports such as this. So I just want to do a shout out, if that's the right term. Old folks using shout outs, how about that? This entire VMS community, but I think the VMS Finance, we owe them a debt of gratitude for the work that they put out tirelessly, day in and day out, that's in the background. So I just want to thank them, really.
So I want to add to that. I also noticed in the Green Book this year that it also has our reserve study.
Yes.
And the reserve study turned out to be very positive for us. So if anybody wants to see basically the details of the reserve study, all they have to do is look at the Green Book. So thank you. Okay, are we ready to go on then?
Sure.
All right.
And I guess I'll give my finance committee report.
Yes.
We did
Go
meet on December 21st, and at that meeting, we had a pretty detailed education segment on our investments. It wasn't about our specific investments, but essentially an education on bond funds, how they react to interest rates, as well as we did a review of the history of how we decided to move to our bond funds. And that started as an ad hoc board of the two mutuals as well as GRF. And we decided to invest in bond funds. We're still looking at that investment. It is a prudent investment. It has, just like any investment, it has pluses and minuses. So we're going to continue to look at whether or not all of the investment profile that we have for us today is something that fits what we need in the future. But so we'll continue to look at it, but I don't see an immediate change in that direction at this point. But with that said, we'll continue to look at it in light of what we now understand and know.
Thank you. So the next item is the Strategic Planning Committee. Director Dodson.
Yes, we did not have our meeting. We postponed it, and I have not rescheduled it, but I hope to do it in the next 60 days. And I do want to say, going back to one of the comments we had earlier, if residents are interested in being on committees as advisors, and whether it's my committee or any of our committees, the committee chair is always open to hearing from you. So resident involvement is important. And so if anybody is interested, please, I'd be interested in hearing from you for my committee and as an advisor, not a board member, but as an advisor on committees. Thank you.
Okay. So the next report would be from Director Horton for the Community Activity Committee.
Thank you, Madam President. All of the things that we approved today were on my committee last month. Anyway, but I did want to mention that the tree lighting and toy drive at Clubhouse 1 was well attended, and thanks to all those people that donated toys. The Equestrian Center revenue is up, and they've hired 2 new staff over there. Clubhouse 2 and 7 weekend reservations have opened up for 2023, so if you need to use 2 or 7, get over there and make your reservation. I wanted to mention that all of the events held during the holiday season were well attended and enjoyed by all the residents. And that's about it for me. And our next meeting is January 12th at 1:30 here in the boardroom. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next report would be the Landscape Committee, Director Skillman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had a wonderful meeting, our quarterly meeting on December 14th. Our department head gave an update on the master control irrigation system, which is our big ticket item for the next year, and told us the new system should be complete by midsummer of this year, 2023, which is going to be absolutely great. It's wonderful that we're getting some rain, but we know it's not going to be enough to completely do away with the drought. And this new irrigation system is going to really help us to monitor our water use. He also gave an update on Aliso Creek in detail with slides showing what we have done this fall. And it looks really good. There's always more to do, but we're very pleased with what's happening with the creek right now. And he also had slides on the completion of the replanting at Gate 1. And I hope everybody that drives by thinks it looks as nice as I do. They've done a good job of that. In our member comments, the biggest thing that we heard about were the willow trees in Aliso Creek. And that's still under study. Willow trees are considered a native tree for this area. And we can't just chop them down. There's all kinds of things that we have to go through. We have to get permissions from 7 different agencies. There's all kinds of things that, and replay them somewhere else, whatever. And it's not something that we've forgotten. And it's something that's continually being looked at, and what can we do and how can we do it? But that seemed to be the biggest concern that we got from the residents. We are looking at, we had a presentation by Kay Havens, who is now the president of El Toro Water District. She was a VP, and she shared all of the different sustainable things that we could do in the community. It was a wonderful report, which is available on YouTube for residents to see, that showed how we got into this drought, how the drought affects us, where we get our water from, how we can react to it, and what we can do individually and certainly as an association to mediate that. So in all of the comments and the things that reaction that we got from that, we decided that we are going to form a tour of local sustainable gardens, and there are a number in this area. And we have people signing up, and we're encouraging all residents who are interested in that type of thing to contact me or to contact VMS, and we'll put their name on the list. And we hope to do that before our next meeting in February 8th. And if not, soon after. Weather depends a lot of it. And we will have our next quarterly meeting February 8th, 1:30, and everybody's invited.
Thank you. So the next report is from Director Karimi.
Thank you, Madam President. I think December was a little bit busy for the M&C committee. We had one on December 1st, which was reported before, and then we had one on December 12th, which was reported earlier in this meeting. And then we had our regular December 14 meeting. I want to thank all of the committee members for really participating on all of these special meetings and regular meetings and giving the very valuable input. I appreciate that. For a regular meeting, we review the project logs and end of the year project, status completed, ongoing, and there were a lot of discussion about that. Also, there were several comments and requests by the member of committee to strengthen our maintenance log, or maintenance, procedures in general. All for, regular the routine maintenance, scheduled maintenance, preventive maintenance, and daily/weekly or monthly check by the supervisor at the clubs, because those going to be pretty important to maintain our facility. Know that M&C have some, maintenance log and all of that, but I think we need to improve that greatly. And in order to stay on top of that, I really need the help of our CEO to make sure that the M&C department really pays serious attention to that. One of the reasons I'm saying that, because there was a New Year party, Clubhouse 5. There is a walkway from the double door to the main door that goes there is covered. And it was seeming like, like outside. You have to have an umbrella to go through. And that's not the first time that there was a leak. But if we have a routine and regular maintenances, really those need to be taken care of. What happens, we had the rain, and now if the rain is stopped for the next 6 months, nobody pay attention to it anymore till the next rain. But, having those regular schedule and preventive maintenance and daily check or weekly check or monthly check by our supervisor at clubhouses or other facilities, that really, really helps to maintain our facility. That's our investment. And if we work at it, we can maintain it, properly for members and not to spend a lot of time when the crisis come. So I really hope that we can get that as robust as possible, because that's going to be key to maintaining our facility. So that was the main thing that came out of the meeting, and I'm hoping that soon I requested that they're going to present that log soon and see how it works, and we all going to make sure that we give our input to help our staff to improve that process. And I thank, Siobhan for helping us to get there with this issue, because that's very critical. That was the main topics, and our next meeting is February 8th, which is going to be in the boardroom and wheelchair boat. Thank you.
Thank you. So Egon is not here, basically to talk about the, he's the clubhouse renovation ad hoc committee. The only thing that I know.
There was no meeting.
Yeah.
There was no meeting that I'm aware of.
Right.
Debbie, have you heard anything? You're on that committee. I don't know who else is there. But.
Yeah, Bunny, and I mean, there's been a couple recent emails, but there's been no activity since the last meeting of the entire committee. There's no scheduled meeting, but there is a website that we've been providing input to the designer. And we've asked to kind of close that loop. So hopefully we'll get a date soon to meet as a group again to discuss where we're at, because we need to move forward.
And I think that Guy is going to schedule that for either January or the 1st of February, but I'm not, positive about that yet at this point in time. Okay, so we will move on to report of media and communications.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our December meeting was canceled, December 19th was canceled, and our next meeting will be January 16th, 2023, 1:30 here in the boardroom and as a virtual meeting. And regarding the website ad hoc committee, this ad hoc committee met December 1st to approve moving forward with a review of the proposals we have received. And that next meeting for that committee will be is to be arranged. The broadband ad hoc committee met November 29th, 2022, and our next meeting is to be arranged. That's the end of my report.
Okay, thank you. So the next report will be from mobility and vehicles, and then, Don, if you could move on to security and communications.
Right, thank you,
also.
Madam President.
Okay.
Mobility and vehicles, we had a really short meeting. I think it lasted about 30 minutes. There were no residents that had really any comments, no comments. So that's kind of an indication that things are running smoothly. Staff Director Robert Carroll gave us a very thorough report on our transportation system in fixed route, or our regular bus program that's called the Easy Rider program. We have 18 buses that make a complete loop or route every 30 minutes. And we had 7,162 trips provided in the month of, I guess it'd be a month of November, and which is 74% of our pre-COVID days. It's slowly going up, but it is still, the only big change we made on that is the going from the 1 hour program that we had a few years ago to the 30 minutes. So I guess that stopped all of the concerns from, major concerns from the residents. And our Boost program or on-demand program. That's a rideshare in partnership with Lyft, and residents can make appointments, and that is used before our regular fixed route program is in operation. The November, we had 465 riders that month, which is about the same as the month before. So it's kind of leveled off. The Journey program is an appointment program that provides medical appointments for medical transportation for people who don't have other transportation to get to a doctor or wherever. You can call in and make that appointment. There were 707 appointments made in the last report. The designation program, as you know, has been suspended since COVID. There are people who have been asking, when's it going to return? We were talking about it, but right now it's still off because COVID is going up a little bit. So there's no news on that at all. In the vehicle area, the update on that, we purchased 33 new vehicles this past year. 27 of them have arrived, and we're still short 6 because they can't get certain parts for them. As soon as they get the parts, we'll get the vehicle. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 1st at 1:30. And in the area of security, we had no meeting last month. Our next meeting is February 27th at 1:30. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next would be the report of the village traffic hearings. And that is Elsie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam President, the Laguna Woods Village traffic hearings for December were canceled. So the last meeting was in November, and the next meeting will be January 18th. Thank you.
Okay, so the Compliance Ad Hoc Committee, we didn't meet in December, but we will meet in January. And the scheduled date, I think at this point in time, is 27th. I just, had a conversation with them. And at that meeting, we will be updating a lot of the policies and the resolutions, basically, that we work with in regards to compliance. And I just want to let everybody know that that department has had 2 people that have been on leave. And so they've still been able to keep up the flow of what they needed, and they're still able to now schedule a meeting at the end of January. And I was told that they will have all the information ready for us for that committee. So thank you. And the next is disaster preparedness, and that's Director Skillman.
Thank you, Benny. We only meet bi-monthly, every other month. So our last meeting was on November 29th. However, we do have a radio drill every month, and our radio drill has been 100% participation, which is great. And our new, I can't remember what his title is, but anyway, Edward Green, who coordinates now the disaster program under Chief Nunes, was introduced, and basically he's working on updating our disaster preparedness program and developing cultural preparedness with surrounding cities, and really look forward to working with him full-time. Our next meeting is January, January 31st at 9:30 here in the boardroom. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So the next report is Information Technology Advisory Committee. Director Hopkins.
Thank you, Madam President. We did have an update in December, mid-December. Essentially, as you reported at the beginning, that we're expecting an implementation of the first area, which is finance and the attending areas in finance, somewhere between August and October. So it's going actually very well. Finance attended, the VMS finance team has attended over 100 meetings this year in order to lay out the foundation and what they need. So we're looking forward. It's a long, extended process, as we know. We knew this going into it, but it's really going to better the community in ways that we just probably can't even articulate today. So, but our next meeting will be in, we meet once a month now, or as needed, and our next meeting will be the last Friday in January.
Okay, thank you. The Purchasing Ad Hoc Committee, I actually think that we're far enough along in our ERP process. They've already gone through a process and tested out the purchasing process. And so this month, I'm going to be getting together with the staff people to go over that process so that we can finalize the purchase and update the purchasing policy to comply with the ERP system. So the intention is this month. Thank you. Okay, so future agenda items, we have the GRF credit and transaction fee, which is on 28-day review. So the next item is director comments. So we'll just go around the room. You want to start, Juanita?
First of all, I'd like to compliment you and the board. It's not even 12 o'clock yet. And we're getting ready there. Very efficient today. And a lot of that has to do with our committees and the fact that things are done so well at committees that when they get to the board, we don't have the debate that we might on those different items. So good meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Yvonne?
No comment, but thank you.
Anita,
Uh-huh.
I just want to wish everybody a safe and prosperous new year. Good luck on that.
First, I want to just mention Happy New Year to everybody, but I also want to express how much I enjoy working with this board. It's a good board. We agree to disagree. We hash things out. We respect each other. We respect the knowledge of each other, and it's just a great board to work with, and I look forward to working with you all.
Reza?
Thank you, Madam President. I say Happy New Year also to everyone. I just want to mention that we put the 2022 behind us. 2023 is going to be a very challenging year for everybody. Uncertainty in economy, everything that's happening. We have to be more cognizant of the things that are happening on the wider areas of economy and social events. For that, I have 120% confidence that this board can make a very wise and excellent decision in navigating the community through these hard times for the 2023. It's not going to be an easy year, but I hope that we can go through it and make the right decision and help our members. Thank you.
So I have to thank all the board members because I too think this is a great board, very professional. Everybody works together. And I just, as the board president, just want to thank everybody for their contribution. So, Joan?
Thank you, Madam President. I too want to wish everyone a Happy New Year. It feels like we're off to a good start. And as Reza points out, it's going to be a challenging year. And I think we as a board are very much up to it. And I'm proud to be working with you all. Thank you.
Happy New Year. As a part of 2023, I would like to see that we take a decision on Building E. We have been on that for a while. We have seen all the analysis, financials and all that. I think it will be prudent if we can take a decision by 2023 and do something about it. Thank you.
And I have no comment.
Yes, no comment?
No comment.
Okay. And we can't forget Debbie there.
That's right. I am here. I want to wish everybody a happy new year, and I want to echo the sentiments of many of my co-board members that we have a really good board. We all work really hard. We take everything to heart. A lot of times residents probably don't realize what goes on, for us individually, the research and things that we bring into our committees. That's all done on our own volunteer time. So we work together well, and to the point about the committees, they do their research. They bring us their decisions, and we review the information that they've already researched. So I want to thank all the committees that do that hard work, because it is hard work being on a committee. And I want to add to what Joan said about broadband. She said our last meeting was November 29th, but what she didn't say was there were 4 meetings in November. So, to that point, because that's a very important part of our community. So thank you, everyone. Let's keep this up for 2023. We are up to the challenge, and it will be a challenge, but it's a challenge every year. The challenges are just perhaps different. So thank you, and I'll see you all in closed meeting on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Bye. Okay, Jim?
My last comment is the board functions very well, and that's a direct tribute to the leadership. And so I want to thank you, Bunny, for your leadership.
Thank you. I take the compliment. I don't take compliments easy. Huh? Oh.
Thank you.
Okay, so we shall now recess and go into close. And what were you going to say? Oh, Siobhan, okay.
Yes, I wanted to address Director Karimi's question about maintenance at recreation facilities. Allison reminds me that maintenance and construction, general services, and all her supervisors are going to start a monthly review program this month. So it's already on schedule.
Oh,
Thank you
so much.
That's music to our
Thank
ears.
you. Yes. All right, so with that, we will recess and go to our close. All right, thank you.
What time? Bunny, what time?
Just a half hour. What time is it up there now?
12
It's
o'clock.
12, so let's say 12:30.
Okay.
All right, bye.